I'm back in the saddle again.
The Gene Autry Melody Ranch Show was one of the most popular programs on the CBS radio network from 1940 to 1956. Gene Autry was one of America's first singing cowboys, and his popularity faded only when he served as a pilot in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and Roy Rogers eclipsed him in popularity. Gene Autry was born September 29, 1907 in Texas, but the family soon moved to Oklahoma. Autry dropped out of school and found work as a telegrapher for the Frisco Railroad, and that led to his first big break.
Well, this was back in about 1927. I worked for a railroad, the St. Louis, San Francisco, or for short they call it the Frisco lines, and I was a telegraph operator. And I worked in a little town in Oklahoma called Chelsea, Oklahoma. And that was close to the hometown of Will Rogers, and he used to come through there.
Claremore, I believe.
Claremore, yes. And he used to come through there quite often to visit with his sister that lived in Chelsea, and I always kept a guitar around the office to play and pass away the time, at night. So he came in and...
you knew who it was?
I didn't at first. When I first knew him, probably I never would have done any singing in front of him. I was so scared. But anyway, he heard me playing and singing, and he gave me this telegram, which was going to the syndicate that carried his column, and it was signed Will Rogers. And he said, young fellow, you ought to get yourself a job on the radio. So I didn't think too much about it, but the Depression came along about that time, and the railroad started laying off a lot of their employees, and looked like that I was going to be one of them. So I thought, well, if Will Rogers thought I was good enough to get on the radio, maybe I will. So
Autry left Oklahoma for New York City, but soon returned to the Sooner State.
Then I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to work on KVOO, and I got a song called That Silver-Haired Daddy of Mine, and it turned out to be a big hit.
Gene Autry's show business career included recording 640 records, including more than 300 songs written or co-written by him. His records sold more than 100 million copies, and he had more than a dozen gold and platinum records, including the first record ever certified gold. He starred in more than 100 films, and in 1950 began a weekly TV show. Autry owned the California Angels and was a member of the board of directors of the American League. In the late 1970s, he built KAUT-TV in Oklahoma City. At the time of his death, he was one of the 400 richest men in America. Gene Autry, who began his career in 1928 as Oklahoma's yodeling cowboy, died in 1998.